Hey guys, Frank here, and thanks for joining us for our fall into autumn tasting kit. All right guys, you got your fall tasting kit here. You got your wine spread out, so let's just fall right into this. All right, what this is kind of a fall autumn tasting kit. And so most of our wines that we have here are gonna have that fall kind of autumn feeling to them. And we're gonna start out with one of my favorite wines that we have here, and that's called the Mother Vine Scuppernong. Now, if you've ever had Scuppernongs, they're a little bit different than some of the other Muscadine grapes. They look a little bit different. They're usually a lot bigger. They're about the size of a quarter, between the size of about a quarter and down to about the size of a nickel, but most of them are about that quarter size, maybe even up to about a 50-cent piece. But what that is, we've got a Scuppernong, a house Scuppernong we make here. But the Mother Vine Scuppernong is actually, there is a vine in Manteo, North Carolina called the Mother Vine vine. And it's a Scuppernong vine. It's like 500 years old. This vine is old, okay? And what happened 20-some years ago, the city of Manteo was out there and they're spraying all the electrical poles for weeds, and they got some of this weed killer on this 500-year-old vine. And they needed a way to save it. So what they did, they called some of the wineries in the area. We sent some of our guys up there. Long story short, we ended up saving it, and as a thank you, we were able to get some of those clippings, bring them back here to Rose Hill, which is where I'm at right now, and we've got quite a few acres of that mother vine here in Rose Hill. So what we did was we took those clippings that we brought back, and over the years have just taken clippings off of clippings off of clippings. So it's kind of like the sons and daughters of the mother vine is what we use here. So it's a really cool thing. Now you're gonna ask me, Frank, what's the difference between your house Scuppernong and this Mother Vine Scuppernong? I'm gonna tell you what it is, it's the taste. Now, your taste of the grape itself is gonna be very similar, but the finish on this is gonna be so much smoother than our house Scuppernong. So let's give this a taste. Ah, it smells good. Definitely get that Scuppernong, that real fruity taste, but you don't have any of that bitter taste as it goes down. That is so smooth. You don't get any of that skin taste from those skins. Awesome wine. You guys definitely, you can get this, order it online if you like it and you want some more of this. Come down to one of our locations. If you're in Panama City Beach, come down there, see us get a bottle of that. North Myrtle Beach or here in Rose Hill, which is where this is actually grown. So that's a cool way to do it. It's come down here, grab a bottle of that and say, you know, these vines are like 2 miles from here. So it's really cool. So now, we're gonna go to our next wine. This is called Bald Head Red. Now, if you look at this, you'll notice that on a lot of our wines, we have the Hatteras Lighthouse. This is the only wine that we have where the label has a lighthouse on it, but it's not the Hatteras. This is the Bald Head Island Lighthouse. Now, this is called Bald Head Red. This was made for the Sneed's Ferry Shrimp Festival years ago. And at that point in time, it was called Shrimply Red. They wanted a wine just for that festival. Well, it sold very well. And Jonathan, one of our owners, decided, hey, we still want to make this, but we don't want to call it Shrimply Red. So they went with Bald Head Red. And his idea, and if you know Jonathan, he shaves his head, so it's complete, his head's completely shaved. He wanted his silhouette on this label. And at that point in time, he wasn't the owner, it was his mom and dad, and his mom said, you are not putting your bald head on one of our bottles of wine. So that got nixed, still called it Bald Head Red, and they went with the Bald Head Island Lighthouse. Now here's the other thing with this. This wine is the only wine that we have that is a grape-based wine that does not have any muscadine in it. This is all pink Catawba. So if you never had pink Catawba grapes, they're also a very sweet grape. They're a little bit more, have kind of a kick to the end of it, kind of a bite to it. So give this a taste and cheers. You definitely don't get a muscadine taste in there. So if you're not a muscadine fan, this is a good one to kind of jump on board. Or if you never tried muscadines and you want to start out with a sweet, but you don't want to go right into that muscadine, this is a good one to start out with. And then if you do like this, but you like muscadines, we're going to do this a little bit later, our Sweet Caroline. This has a little bit of pink Catawba in it with some of our muscadines mixed in there also. So if you like this one, but you like the muscadine, this is a good one to try too, and we'll get to that in a few minutes. But that's the Bald Head Red. It's got a very crisp, and I said a bite to it. what I mean by that, it kind of has, like when you bite into an apple, you get kind of that tart taste, like a Granny Smith apple. That's kind of what this reminds me of. A little bit of a tart taste to it there. Now that's going to take us to our orange blossom. Now, you guys, we've had, well, the location here has been here over 40 years. Like we're around 48, right around that area. About 48 years old here. North Myrtle Beach has been there for about 10 years or so. We're getting ready to hit that 10-year mark. We just opened up in Panama City Beach, Florida in June of 2023. So we've been open there just a little bit over a year, but we wanted something to be our kind of signature wine there. So we came up with Orange Blossom. Now, if you like a sparkling wine, that's what this is. So this has some effervescence in there. It is our muscadines. It's a blush, so it's some of our white and our red muscadines blended together. And then we've added a little bit of an orange hint to the end of this and that effervescence. So if you like mimosas, this is a really good one to do an orange juice mimosa with. Now we've got some out there that are also some of those sparkling kind of wines that one of them, it's our Muscadine Moscato, which is not in this kit, but if you ever do have that with you, do pineapple juice with that one. That's a good one to do, like a pineapple juice mimosa. This one though, I use orange juice. Or I'll just drink it by itself. It's really good cold by itself, so cheers guys. You get that muscadine taste at the beginning, hint of that orange at the end, and then you get that's just, it's a splash in your mouth of just all those bubbles in there. I love this wine. This wine is really good too. So that's gonna take us into our Queen Anne's Revenge. Now, Queen Anne's Revenge, what is fall about it, you may be asking me. Okay, so to me, honestly, the fall thing about this is just the label on this. Look at that label. Doesn't that remind you like a kind of a ghost ship coming out, Halloween, and you know, that whole fall feeling to it. And it does have it's a very interesting taste to this. You're gonna taste that muscadine at first, but on the finish of this, you got kind of a peppery flavor. And in my mind, when I think of fall, I think of very hearty meals, because you know, summer, you try to do salads, you try to do all this stuff because it's so hot, you're sweating, and you don't want a real heavy, hearty meal. This one goes very well with a steak, roast beef, those kind of fall / heading into winter meals. So that's why I think of fall when I think of the Queen Anne's Revenge. That and just the label. Now what this is though, what makes this so different than some of our other wines, it's that peppery taste to the end of it, I think. But also, we actually do all the fermentation on this in outside vats. We don't do any of this in any climate control. So when we start doing the fermentation on this, we start in September and that'll go all the way through winter and then into the spring. So you've got a fluctuation in temperature. In September, it can still be 90 here in the Carolinas, okay? So when you start out with 90-degree weather, then you start to get into the winter months and it's down into 40s and maybe 30s, then you shoot back up into the spring. It's gonna give it a very complex flavor just because of the way that fermentation goes. And to me, it gives it almost, like I said, a peppery taste. So it goes really well with steaks, roast beef, potatoes, all those hearty foods that you're gonna eat during the fall, like beef stew. This is really good with beef stew also. So guys, cheers. Right there on the end, you get that almost ground black pepper taste. That's why this goes so well with any kind of beef. So really great wine that we make here. So that's gonna bring us to our Black River Red. Now our Black River Red, this is another blend. These so far, we've used pretty much all muscadines outside of the bald head, which does not have any muscadine in it, but this is one of those that I was talking about earlier that blends those muscadine and non-muscadines. So this Black River Red, what this is a blend of our red muscadines, and you've got a little bit of that pink catawba in there also. That grape that was in the bald head red. Now this is gonna be a very sweet wine. It's gonna be very smooth also though. That pink catawba and those muscadines blended together make for a very unique tasting wine. So cheers guys. That one's very, very smooth. You get a little bit though of that crisp taste I was talking about, the bald head, but then when you get those muscadines in there, it smooths that out towards the very end. But you do get a little bit of that crisp taste. This one reminds me of fall because one of the things I think about when I think about fall, starting to go into that Thanksgiving time of year, that era, I think of chocolate pie. I really do. My grandmother used to make chocolate pie all the time for Thanksgiving. And this wine right here goes very well with chocolate pie. Those grapes and that sweetness mixed with that chocolate. It's a great, great combination. All right, so that brings us to our next blend. This is our Sweet Caroline. Now this has the same grapes that I just talked about, okay? So this has a little bit of your pink Catawba. It doesn't have as much of the pink Catawba in it though. You're only looking at right around 5 and 10% pink Catawba. The rest of this one is gonna be all muscadine blend, okay? So this one is more, it's closer to a 50-50 blend. So this has more of the muscadine in it, but this is called Sweet Caroline. All of these so far, we're looking at right around a 10% sugar content. This is the same. The only one that's a little less is the bald head, and that one you're looking at about a 7%. So it's not quite as sweet as the other ones we've done so far, but this, again, this one's a 10%. This is called Sweet Caroline. This was originally called X. Now the reason it was called X is there is a hockey team in Raleigh called the Carolina Hurricanes. It's a pro NHL hockey team. And they wanted us, kind of like with the Shrimply Red that we did with the Shrimp Fest, that hockey team wanted us to come out with a wine to celebrate this hockey team. It was their 10th anniversary. They wanted a wine to go with that 10th anniversary, so we called it 10. It had a little hurricane symbol down there in the corner on the label. And it also ended up being the year they won the Stanley Cup. So that was really cool too. People bought this wine, they loved it, but just like with the Shrimply Red, we didn't want to keep something just called X. We wanted to change the name. So we went with Sweet Caroline because A, it's our sweetest wine. This one, I said these were all 10%. This one pops it up a level to about 13%. So this is our sweetest wine. So we went with Sweet Caroline because of, you know, Carolinas, and we had a label contest. And the person who won a label contest, that's the label they came up with. They drew this, and when they sent this in, they said, you know, the wine's called Sweet Caroline, and this is what we imagined Sweet Caroline from that song would look like. So that's where that whole comes from. This is a great wine, very sweet. Another one that goes very well with any kind of those fall desserts, chocolate pie, pecan pie, any of those kind of pies. I'm just a chocolate pie fan, so I like these two with chocolate pie. Cheers, guys. Yeah, definitely get more of the muscadine taste in this than the Black River Red. So if you prefer more of the muscadine taste, go with the Sweet Caroline. If you like more of the blend between the muscadines and the non-muscadines, go with the Black River Red. Now that's gonna bring us to our newest wine. This wine is called Huckleberry. Now, depending on when you are watching this, it doesn't matter. I'm just gonna tell you, we just came out with this August of 2024. And this wine is, to me, it's one of the best wines we've come up with in the last 4 or 5 years. Now, we've come up with a lot of good wines. Maverick comes to mind, the Gray comes to mind, Pina Colada. But this one, I love the taste of this. So this is our muscadine blend. You got about 3 different muscadines in there, all red. And then it's got that huckleberry berry on the end of this. Now, when I tried this, I just figured, well, this is just gonna taste like muscadines with a little bit of a flavor at the end of it. This is more of a little bit of muscadine at the beginning with a lot of that huckleberry in it. You can smell it. I mean, you smell that muscadine a little bit, but that huckleberry really, that one jumps out right at you. So cheers, guys, let's try this. Oh yeah. You really get that. You get that muscadine at the beginning. That's about it. The rest of it is 100% huckleberry. I love this wine. Nice fall night, sitting out on the porch, you got that breeze coming through, take a sip of this. You're gonna imagine running through a field, finding a batch of huckleberries and just starting to pick them. I don't know if they're called a batch, but that's what I'm calling them, okay? This is a great wine, okay? And of course, you got to drink it and say, I'm your Huckleberry. I mean, you got to, right? For those of you movie buffs, you know what I'm talking about. All right, so our next wine is our Pum'kin. This is probably the fallest of all these fall wines, okay? The fallest, whatever you want to call it, Pum'kin. I mean, what do you think of when you think of fall? You think of jack-o'-lanterns, you think of Halloween, you think of harvest. Harvest brings pumpkin to your head. So what this is a blend of our muscadine grapes, and you've got a little bit of the pumpkin pie spices in there. So you're gonna get a little bit of clove in there, a little bit of cinnamon. I get, mostly on the finish of this, I get that cinnamon taste. That's what I get. I do get a little bit of the clove, but I get a lot of that cinnamon taste. You can smell it in there. You smell the clove a lot. You get that muscadine smell at first, but you do smell that clove. But the taste, to me, is that cinnamon. This one goes 100% with pumpkin pie. So if you're doing your Thanksgiving dinner, have a bottle of this with you if you got that pumpkin pie. So cheers, guys. I poured a little extra of that. That must be my favorite. So let's do one more sip. Yeah, definitely a little bit of that clove, but that cinnamon really kicks in at the end. It's a great, great wine. So that brings us to the last thing we're going to talk about today, and that is our mulled spice wine, okay? Now your mulled spice wine, what this is, it's this pack. You take this pack, you take a bottle of our Muscadine cider. Now on this, you're going to have this with you. It's going to say Hatteras Red. Well, since this is our fall tasting kit, we didn't want to put Hatteras Red in here because, I mean, honestly, when I think of Hatteras Red, I think more of summer. I really do. So we want to do something else. So you can use whatever red wine of ours you want, but my suggestion is use the Pum'kin, okay? So you're going to take a bottle of Muscadine cider, a bottle of this Pum'kin. If you want to take a glass out for yourself to drink before you use it to mix this, that's fine, because if you take a glass out, it'll still mix this up and make it great. So you're gonna do that. You're gonna take the pack of mulling spice, the bottle of the muscadine cider, the bottle of the Pum'kin, and then you're gonna take a gallon of apple juice, and then it's gonna say 2 cups of Pink Country Time lemonade. If you like it tart, do that. If you want a little less tart, just use 1 cup. I use 1 cup because I don't like quite all that tartness, but you do it however you want to. I would start out with 1 cup. And if it's not tart enough for you, throw in another cup there. Then what you do is you put all that in a crock pot and you heat that up. Make sure it's not boiling. If it's boiling, you're gonna boil all the alcohol out of it and you want that alcohol in there. So after you get that done, it's gonna be a nice, hot, mulled spice wine that you can sit out on your back porch on a chilly November, October evening and enjoy. So cheers, guys. Here's to that mulled spiced wine. It's gonna be hot, so I'm gonna sip it really, really slow. Oh yeah. That muscadine cider, you can taste that in there, but then that Pum'kin mixed with those spices in the mulling spice is just amazing. All right, guys, I'm telling you, you're gonna love that on a nice cold autumn night. Thank you guys for getting this kit, having your friends over. Come down, see us, come over, see us, come up, see us, wherever you're coming from. Come see us at one of our locations. We got Panama City Beach, Florida, North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and then the original where we're at right now, Rose Hill, North Carolina. We've been here for 40 some years. You can't go wrong coming to visit us. And while you're here, if you come to the Rose Hill location, you can always do lunch over in the bistro. They got an awesome lunch, and they'll serve you any of these wines over there. So they got an awesome bread pudding. Their bread pudding goes well with any of these, especially during the fall. So you guys come see us, but enjoy your day. This is Frank, and I'm out.